Good morning, it's Matt Wild from Crops here. I don't know about you, but this time of year is an exciting one. The holidays are on the way, the weather is getting better, and there's lots of chocolate eggs around. But it can also be a daunting time of year for people like yourselves. As we approach the summer, exams and assessments loom into view. Those of you who don't have exams to sit this year can breathe a sigh of relief and enjoy all the chocolate, but those of you who have studying to do may be feeling a little bit flat. What's the point in having sunny weather if you know you should be sitting inside studying? And what's the point in having holidays if you know that you have lots of homework to complete? The point is that if you study hard, then you will have a much better shot at doing well in your exams and assessments. It's worth giving up some fun in order to do well and give yourself more options when you leave school. As you know, to accomplish a goal in life, you sometimes have to make a sacrifice. Anyone who trains for a sport or a performance understands that. If you have a goal of swimming in the Olympic Games, well, you have to give up sleeping late in order to get to the pool early to train. If you have a goal of performing on stage in front of an audience, you have to give up watching YouTube in order to learn your lines. If you have a goal of looking good in your summer clothes, you might even have to give up eating Easter eggs. Anything worth doing requires sacrifice. We're going to watch a short clip from a film about a man who had a very clear goal. In 1969, Neil Armstrong was the first man to set foot on the moon. He and his crew had to train for months in order to give them the best possible chance to survive this dangerous mission. When the time came for them to set off in the Apollo 11 spacecraft, they knew that there was every possibility that something would go wrong and they might not return to Earth. I wonder how you might have felt about that. Do you think it would be worth sacrificing the time and effort required to travel to space? Do you think it would be worth the risk of losing your life in order to accomplish your goal of being the first person to walk on the moon? And I wonder how you would have felt just before you set off into space. Nervous, emotional, excited? Let's watch the clip.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting. Seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start.
Now, it's not giving any spoilers to tell you that the mission was successful. We know that from history. Not only did the crew survive the journey into space and back, but Neil Armstrong and his colleague Buzz Aldrin did walk on the moon. Famously, when Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon, he said, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Armstrong and Aldrin made history when they stepped on the moon, and human knowledge about the universe advanced as a result of their actions. Easter is a festival when Christians celebrate a significant action by one man that they believe changed history for all people. Easter marks a moment in history when Jesus Christ died by crucifixion, being executed by being hung on a cross, then rose from the dead 3 days later. Christians believe that this is significant because when he died, Jesus made it possible for human beings to be forgiven by God for all the mistakes and bad choices they make. They also believe that by rising from the dead, Jesus made it possible for human beings to have life beyond their earthly life. And the Bible contains 4 different accounts of what happened during the first Easter, some of them with more detail than others. All 4 of these stories include the fact that the night before he was arrested, Jesus ate a last meal with his followers, then went to a garden called Gethsemane to pray. It was in the garden that he was later arrested by the Roman authorities. Let me read part of this. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. Stay here and keep watch. Going a little further, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible, the hour might pass from him. Abba, Father, he said, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what you will. Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Simon, he said to Peter, are you asleep? Couldn't you keep watch for 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Once more he went away and prayed the same thing. When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning the third time, he said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Enough! The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Arise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. Now Jesus knew that he was going to be arrested and that he would be crucified. He also knew that his death was not just an unjust killing of an innocent man, but it would bring about a good purpose for the whole of humankind. Even so, it said that he was distressed and troubled. He knew what he had to do, but he also knew that this was a hard sacrifice that he had to make. Anything worth doing requires sacrifice. Neil Armstrong was prepared to put his life in danger in order to walk on the moon. Jesus was prepared to die a horrible death so that people could experience God's love and forgiveness. There are verses later in the Bible that say about Jesus and what he did. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. For Neil Armstrong, the thought of being the first man on the moon meant that he was willing to sacrifice time, effort, and possibly his life. For Jesus, the joy of making it possible for people to experience God's love meant that he was willing to sacrifice his life. Easter is a celebration of death, but also of life, a sign of the new life that God gives people that was made possible by Jesus' death and resurrection.